All right, just a few more series here for day number 1 of Gamers8, the extravaganza that we are being treated to here for StarCraft 2. And we have got Serral versus herO coming up. Oh yes, it doesn't get any better. We've got great series across the board here, joined by Roddy and the Ben here to get things going. Ben, Serral versus herO. I don't even need to ask you a straight question. It's just, wow, cool.
I mean, if you had these names going up against each other like a year ago, I'd have been like, okay, that is the creme de la creme of Zerg against, like, you know, the new Protoss back on the block sort of thing from military service. But herO has been looking a bit shaky as of late, right? Like, unmistakable. I hope that he gets back to form, because he's done it once before where, you know, he was really good in the CG Enter stays, went to the military afterwards, and then he came back and he's like, oh my god, he's the best Protoss in the world again. So he's been able to get up to the big heights, come down a little bit, and then get back up again, which is very important. And he's going to need to against a guy as good as Serral.
Yeah, definitely. Roddy, your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Like, on one hand, we were a bit disappointed with herO because obviously we saw him win the DreamHack Masters Atlanta last year, and we're like, okay, can we continue this? Do we have a Protoss who can win these big tournaments? And especially over the last 2 months, we mostly think of that GSL performance. We're like, whoa, that really wasn't quite it. But if you just look at the pure results, it's actually not that bad on herO's side. Maybe we just put a whole lot of expectations on his shoulder. He's like, guys, I'm only a human. I cannot play my A+ game every single day.
Sure.
It wasn't always impressive, but he still takes out guys like Solar on a pretty regular basis, and obviously Solar is an animal in ZVP, so it's not that bad. It always feels that someone needs to be the best he's ever been if we expect him to be Serral.
Right. Yeah, I do feel like there was a moment where, as we take a look at the map vetoes as well, that there was a period where herO almost reinvented this matchup and was kind of ahead of the meta for a little bit. There you go. And then everyone slowly started figuring out, and it slightly plateaued in terms of, like, I'm ahead of the meta, right? So there is that situation where people kind of caught up a little bit. He still looks excellent, Roddy, but not as excellent as another reinvention could have made him look.
No, it's probably, it only lasts for so long that you can pick world-class Zerg players apart with Zealots and Stalkers, right? Like, eventually you're like, all right, Zealots and Stalkers are very good, but we should be able to figure this out, and the Zergs did start to figure it out. And then at one point the community got a bit carried away, because then every single Oracle opening was herO style. Whether it was 2 gases or 9 gases, we're like, it's herO style. It's like, no, not everything can be herO style. And it felt after that phase, he kind of went into the just 3 base all-ins double robo, right? Where he would stop at 66 probes, do a little bit of damage early on, just try to end it with a couple of Colossus. He's very good at it, but obviously Yona already had a read on that. They played against each other at IM Katowice not too long ago. Very big match back then as well. It was close. Serral won 2-0, but there were some moments where I was like, ooh, if herO was here like 5 seconds earlier, Serral would have been in serious trouble.
True.
And there's a very good chance that that's just going to happen today again. And imagine if he does sharpen up those timings just a little bit.
And there was a world even today where Serral was in some serious trouble going up against Creator at the beginning of the day, Ben. I mean, yes, okay, he may have got caught a bit off guard in that last game, but he's shown vulnerability, even though we know Serral to be phenomenal in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, like, not to discredit Creator at all, because I think he's actually played really well today. Like, he honestly should have beat Serral. Like, talking back in the room, or where we're eating, the cafe, and Serral, we asked him, like, oh, how do you feel? He's like, yeah, he kind of threw that one, didn't he? I got a bit lucky. And then he gave us a bit of a rundown about what Creator should have done against him, and then he would have been really screwed.
Right.
More polite words, obviously.
Sure.
But yeah, so, like, and if I compare Creator to the likes of herO, and, like, the heights that herO has gone to, herO is absolutely one of the most skilled Protoss players out there. Like, the way that he moves his units and just really, he's a wild cowboy as well. Like, he'll just throw everything at you. So if he can really bring it today, yeah, he's one that any player on the planet will worry about.
And overall, the Korean Protosses, man, they've looked damn good today so far.
Yeah,
Classic was absolutely amazing against Reynor. Like, the way that he controlled his units in that second game, fantastic. The way that he battled his way through the sort of late game of Reynor in game 1, stunning. And let's not ignore those PvTs we've seen also from herO that we're about to watch. herO had a great series against herO Marine on the B stream, and we all know that it's not easy to take out Big Gabe in that matchup. So he looked good. Creator looked damn good in that PvT, even though that one was very chaotic. And then obviously Classic looked amazing. Those 3 have absolutely shown up so far.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm getting word that we just need a few more moments before we actually get to this game. So whilst we're waiting, we're going to head over to Fear Dragon, who's got the map pool ready to go.
In many cases, having a good knowledge of the battlefield can change the course of battle, even in the most dire circumstances, and StarCraft is no different. So let's shed some light on the maps the players will be fighting on here at Gamers8. Altitude is the largest map in the StarCraft 2 map pool. It's a macro map made by character with a twist as it features 2 rich bases in the center. The 8 golden mineral fields are blocked by a destructible Xel'Naga watchtower. The bases are at an exposed location but allow the player to get a significant economy boost if they manage to control that part of the map. Ancient Cistern is a standard macro map made by Sky Piranha 1 with a rush distance of 36 seconds from the main ramp to the main ramp. Players have flexibility on this map as there are various ways to take future expansions. Babylon is a fairly small map made by Shah that has 4 different cliff levels. Despite the relatively short rush distance of 34 seconds, it's a map that usually creates solid macro games. Taking down the rocks at key moments is critical on this map to open up or close off attack paths. Dragon Skills is a map made by May on Fire. It features a forward high ground outpost that plays a major part in defensive but also offensive play. The linear third is open and easy to access, whereas the triangle third base is easier to protect but closer to the opponent. Gresvan is a large macro map made by Lagon and seems to be the map where we see most of our long, drawn-out macro games currently. It has a total of 16 bases for players to take, and we regularly see split map scenarios, where half of the map is mined by one player and the other half by the other. Neo-Humanity is a map made by Omni Skeptic. While it has a relatively short rush distance, there is a slow zone in the middle of the map to delay any sort of aggression. Collapsible towers and strategically placed golden mineral fields, as well as a rich Vespian geyser, create a lot of varied games. Royal Blood is another map made by May on Fire. This map features expansions that allow you to expand away from the main attack path. While the first few expansions are relatively easy to defend, the longer the game goes on, the more exposed future expansions will be. And there you have it. All maps our players will be testing their skills on. The stages are set, so now it's time to see what our actors are capable of doing on them.
Damn, Rap has really been working on his Dutch accent. I heard it's like on the top spawn. It's very impressive stuff. Like on the bottom. You don't have that right though, so it's very clean. It's very cool. It's very cool. But actually, looking at that as a whole, I mean, when we think about like these maps and stuff like that, do you have a particular favorite? For me, Royal Blood always stands out, but actually, we're not seeing it that much at the moment.
To watch or to play?
To watch.
To watch. I think Dragon Skills.
Yeah, you like Dragon Skills.
A lot of great games.
Yeah. How about you, Ben? Anything?
I always like Ancient Cistern.
I knew you were going to pick it. I don't know why.
You did?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. I mean, like, I also like Neo-Humanity for, like, my inner, like, masochist, you know? You get some nice, long games, like, you know, Spirit versus Reino. It's like, oh, yeah, that was a good cracker.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, even though Babylon, obviously, we all agree that it's pretty Terran's favorite, it's not an impossible map to play whether you're Protoss or Zerg. And some Protoss players, they even like playing it against Terran. I think Babylon creates a lot of absolutely epic games as well.
Yeah, I would say this map pool has grown on me as time's gone on. I mean, you know, maybe pros and some don't like some maps or some others. I think that's why we have a veto system, cool stuff and things like that. But it's been an entertaining season, I would say, when it comes to this map pool as a whole. But beyond that, we are just waiting a few more moments before we actually get into this. Any other thoughts before we get into our Serral versus herO matchup, everybody?
No, not so much about the map,
no.
But obviously a whole lot of thoughts about Serral and herO. It's a big match for both of them. Maybe it's important to mention, obviously, both players are 1-0. They only played a single series so far. If any of them wins 3 best-of-3s, they make it into the playoffs. So today is a potential massive step into getting pretty much the job done. Nobody's going to actually make it today. They're going to have to show up again tomorrow. But obviously, getting out of the first day 2-0, knowing you just need to win a single series tomorrow is big. Serral looked good, as we already said, but he didn't look untouchable. Like, over the last few months, at one point, Serral was just on an unreal streak where every single game that we loaded in, we watched Serral, we're like, yeah, it's going to be very fun, but he's going to win. Today, he looked, I wouldn't say shaky, but that was definitely like a lot closer than a lot of people predicted it to be. And I'm just curious, are we going to look at another very close series? Can herO even get the job done? Because that would definitely be an upset. And let's be honest, we've had upsets today.
Yeah, we definitely have. I mean, you get into wild situations as well where you have then in your next round, you're going up against guaranteed 2-0 players on the opposite sides, and that's really the big heavy hitters. Already, we have Maru there, of course. So that's a potential opponent from one of these guys if it's going up against. And if you think about Serral, herO, Maru, I'm like, oh, basically the 3 best in every race. So, you know, it's like, it creates some dream matchups already for this scenario, Ben.
It absolutely does, but like Kevin is right. Like Serral has gone through moments in his career where it's just like, he's unstoppable, you know, like absolutely bulletproof. And you know, I don't think any of these players have really played here in this region ever, kind of thing. So this is new. Serral, he had to play like one of the first series of the day. We all know he likes to go to bed early. Now he's playing quite late into the evening.
True.
And he already looked a little bit shaky against a player that most would say isn't as good as the player that he's going up against. So yeah, if there was ever a time for herO to really do it and make it shine, now is the time.
Final thought, Roddy?
Just an exciting series, and I'm wondering if we're going to see some of that old school herO PvZ magic. Is it going to go wild, or is the probe count going to go all the way up into the high 90s, or is it going to be a little more deadly? One attack, let's get the job done, herO.
Well, let's do it then. It's the Finnish Phenom versus the Smiling Assassin here. A best of 3 to see who goes 2-0 up in this Swiss format.
Now, herO, I've heard, lauded as one of the best Protoss to play the game. But I'm checking the stats here, Fancy, and it looks like Serral has faced 7 Premier Finals against a Protoss and has a 6-1 record beating them.
He is not very stranger to going against Protoss. And honestly, your stats check out. I just checked them as well. أعزائنا المشاهدين، جاء الوقت اللي نشوف المباراة الثانية اللي راح نشهد فيها herO ضد سيرال. سيرال كان موجود معنا في أول مباراة عندنا على المسرح، وانتهى فيها المطاف إنه يأخذ الفوز بسرعة كبيرة، فممكن يكررها ضد herO. متعود ضد البروتوس، ممكن يقدر يسويها.
Yeah, this matchup, it's been played before, and I love to watch it be played again here. Both players, long storied histories in the game, exceptional execution. It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one indeed. أعزائنا المشاهدين، زي ما احنا عارفين في ال WTL تواجهوا هاللاعبين هذول مع بعض، وكلنا نعرف ايش صار في النتيجة. إذا ما تعرف خلونا نسولف عنهم وهم يدخلون المسرح، لأنهم جاهزين الآن إنهم يطلعون لكم.
Well, we've teed it up. Let's see who hits it out of the park. Our first player is ready. Representing Basilisk, it's Serral. Serral picked up the first win on our stage today, and now he's back to potentially claim another. But he did fall to DKZ Gaming, the team of herO and Dark, in the World Team League recently, so not all is guaranteed.
ما هو دائما بيكون افضل لاعب في العالم حاليا. سيرال قد صار افضل لاعب واخذ اللقب هذا، لكن المره هذه الشيء مختلف تماما. زي ما احنا عارفين اول البدايه الجروب ستيج قدر انه يفوز الجيم الاول، لكن يوم رجعنا الحين بنشوف اللي ضده خصم قد واجهه في WTL واخذ ضده المركز الثاني، فهل بيقدر انه يسويها اليوم ويخليه يكون هو المركز الاول؟ هذا الشيء اللي راح نعرفه الان. بس قبل كذا لازم نرحب بخصمه في اول ظهور له على المسرح. خلينا نشوف مين يكون. من فريق DKZ Gaming herO. الشخص اللي كان يقال عنه احد افضل لاعبين بروتوس في العالم، قدر انه يكون في المركز الاول في الورد تي في، وايضا حتى في كوريا في نفس البطوله اخذ المركز الاول على التوالي، وايضا اخذ المركز الاول في WTL. فانت حدث ولا حرج عن هذا اللاعب. في اول ظهور له على المسرح لازم انه يثبت نفسه، ومين بيكون خصمه ضد الشخص اللي الكل جاي عشان يهزمه.
A lot of accolades under his belt, as you said, but once again, we welcome a Wardy TV Major champ to the stage, picking up the Wardy TV Korean Royale Championship, as well as first in Wardy's TL Map Contest Tournament.
He is not very stranger to big titles, let me tell you that. أعزائنا المشاهدين، هذه المباراة زي ما احنا عارفين في آخر مرة شهدناها في بطولة كبيرة جدا ميجر كانت 2 ضد 2، لكن اليوم راح نشوف ايش اللي ممكن يسويه قدام بعض كسولو بلايرز. بالتوفيق لهم إن شاء الله.
Let's welcome our competitors to center stage to shake hands.
سيرال وهيرو يتقابلون لأول مرة في جيمرز 8 في ستار كرافت. أعزائنا المشاهدين على طول نروح لمن المعلقين نتكلم أكثر عن هذه المباراة، لأن راح نشوفه بيكون شيء أسطوري.
An exciting match coming up. Let's throw it to the casters and get it started.
What is up, everybody? This is Tasteless, and with me is Artosis, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to get into this match.
Oh man, this is going to be a good one. One of the absolute best Protoss players in the world going up against Serral, of course, nominee for the title of GOAT, just looking so strong.
Now, herO and herO, of course, you know, they're both 1-0 right now. herO, though, I gotta say, it should be a very, very tough match for him. I mean, you know, Serral, a guy who needs very little introduction, he very well may be the favorite to take this entire thing.
Yeah.
And although herO has played extremely well, especially in the past year, right now, it does not seem like his strategies, his ideas are really gelling. They're not bringing about the kind of victories that we saw him pull off in the past.
Yeah, last year was certainly better for him than this year. He has not really performed at the level that we were all kind of hoping. You know, a Protoss going around and actually winning a bunch of tournaments. He hasn't been able to do that, but I feel like Creator already showed some chinks in Serral's armor, so maybe herO can capitalize upon that and pick this series up.
Introducing our players in the upper right, in the red from Korea, he is herO. And his opponent in the bottom left in the blue from Finland, our Zerg, he is Serral.
All right. Looks like we are going to have that little block coming down. Well, actually, Serral going once again for the very quick hatchery. So herO not going to be able to block that. And, you know, it's a nice move from Protoss. We've seen it so much recently. It's almost become completely standard to try to block your opponent's hatchery.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well, right? And as you come in there and get that block, you're also confirming that there's not any kind of crazy shenanigans Zerg might be trying. Not that that's generally too effective, but it is kind of nice to at least know and then get the kind of game that you want to play, you know, get the ball rolling, I guess you could say, with that. Now, to talk about Serral a little bit and the styles that he brought out over the last 2 years, this is a guy who, after his military service, you know, or I should say any pro's military service, a lot of times we do expect them to fall off a little bit and not have as strong of a return. You know, StarCraft, it really is like trying to build up muscle or build up a good form. You have to really work out and put those reps in before you can have the kind of body of play that a lot of the very best players in the world have. But herO returned. Looked to be an incredible form and was completely revamping the way that we understood the matchup. He had a very unique, aggressive style. He had oracles, which he'd then pair with stalkers and try to match the Zerg's pace of expanding, and then just trade very efficiently and ultimately come out on top.
Yeah, and in fact, that herO style, we still see the reflections of that all the time in Protoss vs. Zerg. Everyone has learned things from him, especially from his play last year and the year before. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing, is he going to have something kind of remastered with that? Like, is he going to have maybe a new tech branch coming off of one of those builds that he really did invent that people are still using?
And, you know, with those big ideas, brought him a lot of success, a lot of notoriety, and it did change the entire meta to what you were saying, Artosis. The issue is he's not having that success nowadays. In fact, now he's really been underperforming compared to those results he had in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's someone, once you win GSL, like over Maru, you're expected to win multiple tournaments. And it just hasn't quite been the case. I don't know. There's something about his play where he's falling short. And honestly, like, I don't even know if he is the best Protoss anymore, right? You got to mention some of these other guys that are doing well. Classic, Creator, they're both looking very strong as well.
That and that a lot of the success that he had, it was very Korea-based, right? And the Europeans, they do have a slightly different approach to the game, a different view on how it should be played. And Serral, of course, is the very, very best European that we basically have most of the time out here. To get into the beginnings of this game, a very good maneuver here by herO. He comes in, he trades out a lot of kills on Zerglings, generates some threats, and doesn't lose a single Adept, only losing half HP on both.
In fact, he is going to go ahead and finish that Shade. He's going to get multiple drones. This has actually turned out to be very, very good. Wow, look at this. He's going to get one more as well. Are you kidding me? Oh my god, that is way more damage than I thought you'd get, Tasteless.
I thought we were done, but then here comes the Oracle getting the drone kill count up into 7. you know, in a moment where normally the Adept pressure and the Oracle play, it's pretty vanilla very often. We do expect some kills, but not very much. herO managed to get quite a bit. The question, though, is, you know, is there enough on these Oracles to defend this Nexus? And it looks like, in fact, there is.
Yeah, it looks like Serral, they are really trying to bait out him turning on that Oracle. He uses so much energy just to turn on. But right now, he is getting into the third Oracle. We have that Twilight and Forge, probably Blink and +1 going to be coming up. And Serral continuing to try to harass here a little bit.
Yeah, the third Oracle definitely makes it very, very difficult for any damage to be done. The positioning here of the Adepts is very perfect as well, kind of putting them in the little wedges in between the minerals, so the Lings can't really get much done. We've got more Lings and we've got 7 Roaches being made. Over on the Protoss side of things, we have a Gateways and a Forge. This is an all-in timing coming from Serral. Serral's decided he's lost enough and he might as well try to end this game right here, right now. But the Forge, not very promising unless we start to see cannons come up here to defend.
Well, that's for sure. You definitely don't need +1 in a game like this. Those Queens making the march across the map to try to keep the pressure of the Oracles off of his Roachling. Now, the Oracles are going to scout that, and now he knows Serral pretty darn all in with this. We're going to have herO pull back. He has a lot of energy on these 3 Oracles, and of course, we're going to see a lot of shield batteries go down now.
Yeah, I am very worried here that, you know, the fact that he spotted this so late, even though it is a bit predictable when you get this many kills on drones early on, it's very tempting for the Zerg to try to all in. And now we've got the Corrosive Biles coming down here. The Cybernetics core is going to fall, and that means there's not going to be very much protection here for these Stalkers.
Yeah, looks like he is going to charge in. The 3 Oracles have been turned on, so we do have a ton of damage coming out of those right now. Definitely very, very helpful indeed. 4 Oracles fighting against the Roach Ravager, and this is a lot of damage that he's dealing to Serral's army.
It just feels like it's too much here. We've got the Lings getting close to actually surrounding these Stalkers. The probes have not been used to attack in here. Every inch that these Queens are able to cover is going to force down these Oracles. I think we might be over to the end here.
Oh my gosh, he actually loses that one Queen that had a lot of energy left on it, maybe some missed transfusions. The probe's fighting now as well. He loses quite a few, but still pretty high compared to Serral's count here. And is this almost done? I think so. You know, there's a few more Lings being made, but mostly Serral is going back into drones.
Well, herO was able to target down each of those Queens to the point where, as the last Queen falls, there's no way to deal with any more of the Oracles. The rest of the Stalkers came in. Serral perhaps overextended slightly as he came in over there. And now the worker counts are fairly even, and the third Nexus is still around.
Yeah.
You know, when you all in like that, it's always better to go towards the natural. There's some infrastructure there, and if you can break through that, the main is free, the third is irrelevant.
Yeah.
But when the Protoss holds, the nature of the recovery for the Protoss is one where now you're exactly back to going on to 3 bases, and you can get that engine going a lot quicker.
That was a great hold from here, and we see a little bit of a replay there. But yeah, right now just kind of macroing up. He is going to start putting on pressure with his Stalkers. And this is a game that it's hard for me to see the way back here for Serral, right? herO has some of the best Stalker control that we have ever seen in StarCraft 2. Back in the day and even now. Look at this, adding 4 more gateways, getting a prism. He's working on +2 attack. What does Serral really have going on for himself? Not a lot.
And it seems like a counterpunch is getting set up here very quickly. 4 more gateways are going to finish, and warp gates are soon going to be, you know, in higher numbers. And we have a warp prism that's coming out. Now, I do believe the Lings actually saw the warp prism, although I don't know if that really matters. I think that this is, you know, not the most surprising move. And it's going to be tough here for Serral. He's taking a 4th base, which may just very well be canceled. You know, it will be probably herO just kind of bobbing and weaving his army over to that area and then trying to put the pressure on the 3rd base. But this is going to be tough because there's a lot of momentum here from herO.
herO coming up right now. A Bile does go down, trying to zone him out. A couple more there as well. Serral's trying to buy himself time right now while more Roaches are being made. His army is just so small comparatively, though. Look at this micro as well. Just going forward, trying to break down every single unit, and this is looking real good for herO.
I actually really respect the fact that he didn't go for that 4th base right away. Realize that it's better to put damage on there and do that a little bit faster. He has not actually scouted that it's over there, so the pressure's going to continue to build up. As more and more Ravagers come into play here, it's going to be a little bit tougher to try to move up and down this ramp, but if he could just get a little bit more damage in there, he can actually push in and get a bigger, wider, fanned-out position with these Stalkers.
Well, every time he goes up, he's picking off at least 1 or 2 units, and he's not really losing anything here. Eats a bile right there because he does need to keep putting the pressure on. More units being warped in, even some Zealots there, which are going to help out immensely with the tanking. And now that he sees creep coming down the other side, he does know about that base.
Yeah, but he's decided it's going to be more important to try to come over here and do instead a little bit more pressure. The Warp Prism, by the way, headed southbound over here into the main. He could do a big warp in over here. This could draw a lot of the Zerglings back and maybe even set up for a better Stalker pressure coming up here over towards the third.
Yeah, how are you going to defend both of these? Lings going into the main base, as you can see in that picture-in-picture. It looks like the Zealots will get picked off by these Queens, but the Stalkers kept some pressure on, although now they seem to be rotating around the map.
Yeah, and you know, when you make that really big decision to move the Oracle, you are giving up on having the same kind of generative push that you have before. If the Warp Prism is back there, you never miss a warp-in round. You know, the Warp Prism's fast, but it's not going to be that fast getting back out of the main, so now he's kind of forced to leverage this position, and I don't know if it's necessarily one that is going to work out for him.
Well, right now he does get a lot of Zealots in the main. They get kind of stuck. This big group of Stalkers deciding he has critical mass. Still going to be microed heavily, and that is very hard for Serral to really stop. He's going to be able to take down this hatchery. I mean, that was kind of a greedy one over on the side. So a good pick off there by herO. But one thing to mention, like, I got to tell you, I'm impressed with Serral still being alive at this point.
I really thought he was probably dead as we saw that attack coming up there. And, you know, with the Warp Prism being gone, these Stalkers staying out on the map, I think it's undeniable that Serral is going to keep his 4th base and probably remake the 5th pretty easily.
Well, we'll see if herO's able to put any more of that pressure on. A Prism coming out to help join him. We have Disruptors on the way. Of course, Disruptors going to be a terrible unit for Serral to deal with here. Ravagers just cannot dodge those vials.
That's right. Big cancel there. Very big cancel over there. Basically getting rid of that for free. And now the pressure's going to mount over here. If herO could take this base out, it's still, I think, a very doable position, but it does seem like Serral should just barely have enough to drive this away.
Well, we'll see. He is blinking back. Kind of a big blink as opposed to several smaller blinks. A lot more Lings on the way. Baneling Nest coming up as well as these charge lots try to harass. The 4th base gets taken down. And herO just continues to pile up the damage, but Serral is still here.
Yeah. You know, he lost the base at the bottom. He lost the one at the center left, and now I would imagine that herO just continues to roam around here and try to look for another fight. We do have Banelings coming in. You know, they are not always effective when you get enough Stalkers at play. You kind of have these endless blink backs that you can do. Disruptors being factored in here may be the right addition of muscle to basically overpower Serral here.
Yeah, he's going to start losing quite a few Ravagers probably to these 2 Disruptors. But right now, that is so many Lings that herO has to take it very seriously. A couple blinks back, and look at that. Comes in and gets some huge hits on those Disruptors.
That was sick. The Link count's been thinned out. The Stalkers are going to try to come back in. A few corrosive vials by the Zerg, a little bit of time, but the warping rounds are getting scarier. The Disruptors are going to have 2 more shots, and if they can make 2 more like the last, Serral is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he will be just about done in this game if that occurs, but so far, Serral's doing just an amazing job on trying to defend this. Does go ahead and dodge that 1 Disruptor shot. And you know what? A little counterattack going on. Let's not forget, this is not a standard herO game. Normally, he'll have 4 or 5 bases by now.
And let's not forget the way this game panned out. Really good harass here by herO that basically forced Serral into an all-in, only for herO to barely survive. And here we are. It does look like herO is beginning to truly overpower Serral and is very likely to close this game out 1-0.
Oh, ends up missing that one Disruptor shot, but GG is called. And herO will end up taking that game, but honestly, it felt like he was very far ahead for a while, and Serral held on miraculously. It really shows you how sturdy a Zerg Serral is.
It really does, and I got to say, that was a fun first game. You know, every moment there played into the next. We saw those drones get picked off, and I think Serral made a really smart call, saying, okay, why would I try to play a long game? He did that all in. herO narrowly survived. He actually spotted the Queens right before they got to that natural base. And then it was all down to herO with the roaming, with maneuvering around the map. It seemed for a while like Serral was probably going to survive this and outlast him, but he had a couple really big moments back there. Here's the initial moment that we saw that first attack coming and do so much.
Yeah, those adepts did a lot, which I think you're right, probably triggered this attack from Serral, which, like, it was a good, solid hold there from herO. And then he kept that pressure on. I really thought he was going to end the game a lot earlier, but Serral's micro, his control there was next level.
Yeah, and I think those two disruptor shots there really sold the push. You know, he comes through there. He has so much being done. You could see as the Lings thin out, there just aren't that many Ravagers. There's nothing that the Zerg has that can really allow them to sustain, that can allow them to hold their ground, and eventually the Stalkers, they can be juggled back over and over. You know, some of the shields are going to be lost, but oftentimes there's just too much HP as well. And so here we are now in a best of 3 where herO is 1-0 versus Serral. Crazy.
Yeah, I tell you, Serral's not having as easy a go as I thought a lot of people would predict for him in this tournament.
In the upper left, in the red, our Korean Protoss, he is herO. And in the bottom right, in the blue, from Finland, our Zerg player, Serral.
So it's true, he is from Finland, not Texas?
No, I'm sorry, I was spreading fake news. He is from Texas, actually.
Oh, okay.
He is an American.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
yeah.
His skill levels seems to be a little bit too high not to be.
So, this game, we've got herO with the pylon on the low ground. I should point out that the last game, herO did win in a very herO-esque fashion from when he was on top, although I think that the way that we ended up with that win was a very different one, where basically herO survived that all in. But, you know, it seems like when it comes to Stalker Micro, using, you know, as much opportunities to eke out as much damage as possible, herO really is the guy for that versus Zerg.
Yeah, and especially if he gets that early damage, it's going to have to be something that Serral does a better job of blocking this time. Those initial adepts to kill 6 Lings, get out, shade back in and kill 4 drones. Like, that's already a lot, and then you add on top of that Oracle pressure, and herO just really kind of ran away with the early game. I feel like normally Serral's defense is a little bit better than that, and it's going to need to be if he wants to come back and win this series.
Yeah, I mean, when you do an all-in like that, setting the Queens across the map and hyper-committing and completely flatlining any growth back at home, it is tough for any Zerg to recover, but, you know, of all the Zergs in the world, it would seem like Serral would be the strongest at that, and the truth is it looked like for a couple minutes there, he probably was going to hang on. Yeah,
well, he did hang on for a lot longer than anticipated. Now we have the Cybernetics Core finishing up here for herO, so we can finally see exactly what his plan is going to be. There it is, the Stargate starting instantaneously. Serral, of course, keeping track of the fact that no Warp Gate has started, so going to assume that Oracles will be on the way.
And from here we wait. We see exactly how this game's going to develop. We will have Serral be taking his 3rd hatchery shortly here. And we should mention, you know, herO has been so strong, but has really sort of been in a slump, at least for, you know, a guy who beats Maru in a GSL finals. He hasn't really been able to find that spark again. But I'll tell you what, if you're able to beat Serral in a best of 3 here at Gamers8, that would be, I think, the right medicine the doctor ordered to get you on the road to a real recovery.
Yeah. I mean, if you end up like going through and maybe like 3-0 in this stage, you're going to be feeling great going into that next bracket, especially if you're beating someone who many would consider the favorite of this tournament in Serral.
Here come those 2 adepts. It seems like Serral's going to be absolutely sure to not let these adepts get any ground. If Serral can basically protect almost all his drones, obviously we're going to go into a pretty standard high-tier, mid-game here. Back at home, we've got the first Oracle out. The second Oracle is being produced. We've got that probe over here to get the third up, and Adept will be over there shortly to protect.
Yeah, a couple of them going to shade home here. And of course, so far, not like a whole lot going on. We'll see what this Oracle can do as it flies in, kind of just checking the Queen, already knowing where that Oracle's going to pop in its head, is there to kind of zone it back, start putting some damage on it. Second Queen coming up as well. So herO just has to turn around.
And so, a very standard play here. Both sides showing a lot of respect, pretty conservative openers as we're in the phase of development here. This Oracle's going to come through. Looks like he's going to be able to get, what, at least 3 or 4 drones down here before he's driven out. But a bit of an overextension there, a little greedy from herO. And so instead of getting that advantage and escaping, it turns out to be a bit of a trade.
Well, this other Oracle that was hiding behind the main base is going to try to get some damage as well. Unfortunately, not going to work out. Loses most of its health. For Adept shading in, this is just about the end of herO trying to get damage. And it doesn't seem like he's going to get enough for what he's spent, honestly.
Yeah, and he may be almost overextending over here with this other Oracle. It is going to get a few more kills, but 2 red Oracles, it's pretty hard to dive deep in at all in moments like that. Luckily, he didn't lose that one. I think if you lose, an extra Oracle or 2, suddenly you can just end up losing your Nexus later on to some kind of pressure builds. And so he's going to send the 4 Adepts in over here once more. Now, notice where Serral's expanding. He's not going to the bottom center or even the center right. He's expanding right in the middle, kind of towards where herO is.
Well, that is a fun location with the Rich Vespine Geyser. I don't know if that's really going to come into play here for Serral. Seems like he has enough bases already as he does take that. But continuing to grow out while herO tries to put on harassment, still utilizing some stasis wards and whatnot. A couple of Adepts still kind of scouting the map, probably going to try to trade those in for some drones as well. But not the type of damage that you want in the early game to be able to continue the pressure.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best usage of the Oracles you can have once they're low HP, is to basically keep them in the back and keep throwing down these stasis wards and keep trying to punish anybody who's neglectful of those workers back there. But it looks like we're going to see it again. In fact, this time it's going to be another dive. It seems like he was aware of the Queens. What are you going to do? You're going to damage all of them? What am I seeing?
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Is this a pumpkin decorating contest?
Crazy. It's Halloween themed to harass over here, Artosis.
Bunch of orange drones, Tasis. What are these, road cones or drones?
Well, now they're all yellow. Yeah, I was wondering how many of these.
What is this, a banana farm, Tasteless? Are these bananas or drones?
I can't believe he misclicked that many times. I mean, there's a point where eventually you're going, okay, what is happening? And then you wake up in a cold sweat and you realize that Gamers8 is happening later that day.
Yeah, a nightmare.
I kept targeting his drones. They only turned orange, man.
So many wasted shots. So sad. But right now, a 4th base going up for herO. So, he hasn't done a ton of harassment damage. There's been a little bit. Not a ton, though. I feel like Serral's going to be pretty reasonably happy with how he's defended everything over the time here. The Oracle's still trying to get a little bit more as well. Finally,
he's like, hey, you those orange drones from earlier? Like, can I get some closure, please?
Yeah, really. But yeah, the 4th base going up for herO. That's pretty solid. He's getting his +2. He's getting charge. He's got the double forge. This is the style that we know and love from herO.
Yeah, and so this Overseer will be taken out. I mean, I think seeing the double forges is certainly enough, especially with the Citadel right next to them. So, a lot of times you look at this and be like, is this a 1-1 timing? I think this is just him getting that 4th base up and generating upgrades. It's not intended to be any kind of special push in. Yeah. But he is setting up to try to have that play that he had when he was at the peak of his success here.
Absolutely. That is 100% the type of build that he's trying to utilize here. So we're going to see him put on a ton of Stalker pressure here, and hopefully those upgrades will pay off for him if he wants to end up beating Serral 2-0 here. But, Serral's got a better economy than what he had before. He's going to have Baneling speed, a lot of Lings being made, a lot of Ravagers being made, and the Infestation Pit already coming down as well.
Here we go. Bring it back.
Look at those pumpkin drones, man.
There we go. Like, you are kidding me.
All identical.
Yeah.
No creativity there.
Yeah.
I give it a 3 out of 5 in the pumpkin contest.
It's funny how that happens. That's literally like 5 or I guess 4 misclicks in a row where you're trying to transfer those shots over. So charge is done. I don't know if this is, oh my gosh, he's going to take a 5th base with this. This is so cool. I love how, you know, herO, I remember when he first brought this out, it was one of these moments where it was like, huh.
We didn't think it was going to work.
Well, you know, it did seem like that was one of the first things everybody tried to do in the game was just make nothing but stalkers and try to blink around. And eventually it's like, well, of course that can't work until it was, of course, you know, 11
Yeah, there was only
later.
3 or 4 MLGs that were won by that. So. But yeah, the Stalker count is starting to get pretty high. He has charge now, double Robo coming up, and now some Zealots going into that middle base area.
He is able to draw these Zerglings away, but I don't know if he's going to find a whole lot of extra damage here with these Stalkers. And in fact, I don't know if that was even necessarily a great move that we saw back there from herO. You know, he was so far out, it's a little bit harder to actually blink away from this stuff. We have a drone there in the middle with those Ravagers, but some more Zealots are going to be queued into the rest of this. We did have a Robo just finished, so Immortals are going to be in play, in fact, coming out in pairs.
Yeah, double Immortal right now. That's actually not what I thought we would end up seeing here. I thought he'd go for a support bay and get some splash damage, but that's all right. The Immortals definitely can be very, very helpful. 2-1 is already done. Serral, in the meantime, going for that Adrenal Gland upgrade. Love to see the rush into that with Hive. I was wondering what specifically he wanted to get, and now we see he really wants to rely on those Zerglings doing a bit better.
Well, Serral is fairly unfazed here. He's going to be expanding all the way here into the bottom. We've got small harasses hitting on one side, but the big push is going to be over here. He can use these oracles to try to zap down banelings, but it does seem like Serral has basically isolated this army over here, being so patient and waiting for that blink, and then the Banes can come in and make their connections, and suddenly these Stalkers are looking a lot less beefy.
Well, as the overcharge goes down, Serral turns around and strikes the other base. There are a lot of cannons in here and another battery, but look at those banelings roll right into the mineral line, taking down a fair amount of probes, but down comes the rest of herO's army. Look at that, blocking the banelings with his Stalkers to prevent them from hitting those Zealots, and he will continue to push forward and try to punish.
Yeah, looks like the last Ravager is going to stay alive for a little bit longer here. A lot more Banes are coming, but it seems like herO is interested in trying to commit. Remember that those Immortals can tank the damage from banelings so well, so it's a little bit trickier for the Zerg to try to shove into this position. The Banes and the Lings are going to continue to come down. He's chunking out the Blinks so that he has enough time to always kite away. The rest of the reinforcements are going to merge up with this. A lot of Stalkers taking damage, and the Roaches and the Lings are going to try to push forward, but the arc here from herO is looking pretty good.
Wow, that was a lot of banelings, but still very many red Stalkers make it out alive. A forward blink there to pick off just a couple more units. More Immortals being made. 3-2 upgrades completed with +3 armor coming up. Oh man, like herO has just superb upgrades. He's sitting here on 5 bases and non-stop pressure on Serral.
Yeah, I mean, it's been this real tug of war here in the middle of the map, but Serral's got enough bases over here that he really is able to max out over and over and begin to accumulate that money. The Warpins over here at the bottom, by the way, the Warpin of the Nexus, I should say, at the bottom is pretty wild to see. Roaches now going face-to-face against some of these Immortals and doing some work. The Zealots coming here from the side for the flank, a tag there on the Roaches, and we could have had a crazier game here. The Lings now with a counterattack, and so some units have to be recalled, but that's really just Serral going for a positional play as he pulls out with most of the Zerglings.
Yeah, it looks like those Zerglings will be cleaned up pretty quickly. Serral doing a little counterattack down towards that 6th base. Not going to allow that to occur, at least not yet. And still more Immortals being joined in by herO. This army he's making is so cool. Just such a gateway-centric army, but the Immortals with their tanking and their damage are adding so much to it as well.
You know, this might be one of these games where herO actually loses this despite his strategy basically panning out the way it was supposed to. You know, Serral here at the bottom and at the right, it's such an unusual expansion pattern, right? You have a quadranted Zerg over here in the bottom right, and then you have herO like going like in a string all the way down the left side of the map. if he was able to keep that very bottom left nexus.
It's a brilliant strategy going to string all the way down the bottom left of the map against a quadranted Zerg. But, you know, I think the bigger story here is the fact that he has like 8 Immortals. It feels like I'm watching StarCraft 2 10 years ago with the amount of Immortals he's just trying to kill Serral with.
And the Lings are going to run right by over here and get up into the main and the natural. That's going to force a little bit of attention over here for herO. He needs to figure out a better way to basically keep this safe, and I love the burrow as well. Just, you know, keeping herO busy and distracted and unable to really make that push that he wants to make over here towards the bottom right entire area of the map. Serral at this point in time, there's been a lot of fights in the middle of the map, but the fights are not trading out to the point where Serral is actually having any real damage inflicted on him. And it looks like now it's his turn to push in.
Oh man, that is a lot of Banelings just running headlong into all of these Immortals. The Stalker's trying to blink back, more Immortals popping out during this, and he will hold on, but he just lost like 5 Immortals during this. And don't forget, his probe count has actually fallen dramatically in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty huge. There's still a decent number of Immortals here. I don't know that the pendulum can swing back in the other direction.
This is a great game that we're seeing from both these players. Look at this, Serral chunking through once again. I think he's starting to take a lead that herO cannot fight back against, eliminating every single Immortal there.
It does.
A few Stalkers going back, and you can see herO throwing his head to the side.
Yeah, it does seem like we are at the very end of this game here. herO taps out, GG, and Serral's tied this up 1-1. The cameraman fainting back there. I mean, we saw it all. It's been a crazy series, Artosis. And the fact that we got to see herO basically do the build that, you know, made him an unstoppable force in PvZ in years past, and actually get all the way into the late game. I mean, he was taking that 5th base.
Yeah.
And moving in and out of the middle of the map, but it was Serral who was so good at basically just powering through that at the very end, it was his turn. He hadn't lost any workers. He hadn't taken any damage.
Yeah.
And what he did from there was get that closing kill. And now I'm very curious how herO approaches Game 3, because Game 1, in some ways, herO kind of won that when he stopped the all-in. He created this opportunity that even Serral couldn't recover from. But in Game 2, it was herO. You know, he had some great harass and some not great harass, as you can see over here. But the reality was he still got to that Stalker, Oracle play, Speed Zealots coming in later, and eventually you combine that with Immortals. But Serral was not somebody that you could beat in those moments.
Well, Serral he got his macro to exactly where he wanted it. He had a lot of production. As you can see, like, you would think Immortals with Hardened Shield will counter Banelings, but it turns out that Banelings in high enough number counter everything. So he was able to blow up herO's entire army. I think that herO did put out a wonderful game. And in fact, that was a superb game overall. One of my favorites of the tournament so far. And now we're tied up 1-1. This has already happened to Serral once here today against Creator. Is he going to be able to pull out game number 3?
You know, Serral could still very well take this whole thing, but he is having to really work for it, Artosis. Right now, he's not having an easy best of 3 no matter what. Before going into this game, introducing our players here in the upper left, in the blue, he is Serral. And his opponent here in the bottom right, in the red, from Korea, he is herO.
What will we see out of herO this game?
I wonder. I don't think he's going to go for some kind of weird timing attack.
No?
I feel like he might try that same style from before and try to make it work.
You know, even without the good harassment from Game 1, it still felt for a little bit like he was advantaged in Game 2, right?
Sure.
So I wouldn't mind him doing that same type of style again. He's very, very good at it. It felt like he had the advantage. Maybe if he just does something a little bit different. Maybe it wasn't the Immortals that he needed.
Yeah, the Immortals were an interesting choice. It was pretty crazy to see that moment. We basically saw the Immortals like play Red Rover with the Banelings, like combine their little Immortal arms together to make this moment where the Banes had to try to connect on some of them. But at the end of the day, that wasn't the composition that you really needed in order to win that game. And especially when a lot of the Immortals fell, and especially when those Banelings connected from behind, that's all you needed for the Zerg to then do whatever they wanted in order to win.
Yeah, seems that way. Interesting that he was choosing to utilize Immortals specifically for that. Like, I've seen him do that gateway style into disruptors. We've seen it with Colossus from him. We've definitely seen Archons from some players in those types of positions as well, but clearly the Immortals against such a high econ Zerg, not going to be the right choice.
So in this game, the probe has interrupted the standard place for that second hatchery to go. And we got to see exactly if there's any really big plans here from the Protoss or not. I'm guessing probably not. I think herO's just going to try to develop as normally. Let's see if we have a Stargate or anything that would indicate this is going to be the kind of game that herO has played so many times before.
I think it will be. But you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing a Twilight go down. I wouldn't mind some sort of different build.
Sure.
Now, there it is. The Stargate gets started there. And so pretty standard. And of course, this time, having blocked that hatchery and made the hatchery at the third base instead, this will give him a little bit more of an opportunity to do some harassment with his Adepts and Oracles.
That's right. And if we can see some great harass here with those Adepts and Oracles, I think that herO's got a real shot. And again, he did bungle, killing those drones early, kind of in the mid-game of that harass. And I'm not saying the game would have been different, but it certainly would have helped if herO was able to take every pod shot you can against the Zerg. It's easy if you watch a lot of StarCraft to see several drones killed off all the time, and the best players in the world, it seems like it didn't make any difference, but it really does when you break it down.
Yeah. Some of these very close matches, if we see the drones killed early enough, it is absolutely going to deal that extra damage that allows the Protoss player to just run through him. But right now, the Adept trying to get some harassment, some great micro there from Serral. That's something that actually was missing in the first game. That's how he took so much damage there. But let's see if we can get any more drones. No, cancels that Shade, and maybe just getting ready now for his third base.
And so, we've got the Adepts continuing to roam, the Oracles continuing to come out here. Serral really just did play probably the best sort of reactive, like I'm going to deflect every one of your moves games that I've ever seen versus that style that herO has done so well. But, other than, seeing that counter all-in, which is really, you're prompted to do the all-in like from game one when you lose enough drones. Like the more drones you kill early on in a game, the more likely it is the Zerg is going to go, well, what are my odds of actually winning the long one? Why don't we just, try to hard steer this game into the other direction? But I'm also interested in seeing, off of all that information I said, is there going to be anything that Serral's going to have pre-planned here that he might try to really do to get in the Protoss's face? Because it's been a very reactionary game from him overall.
Honestly, I don't think so. Yeah. I think that Serral wants to get into the bigger macro game, play slightly reactive, and then see where he's at. Of course, something like game one where you lose as many drones as he lost, it makes sense to do some sort of all-in because recovering from that is going to be nearly impossible. But, yeah, I think here you're just going to scout what he's doing. See, he sees it. It's like, okay, blink +1, third base. This is all very standard stuff. He gets his Roach Warren during this. And this is a situation that, I think Serral is comfortable with, despite the fact that herO is so strong with it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Artosis. I mean, that is kind of the ultimate Zerg player, is the one that can always just survey what you're doing and react. Or if they can't figure out what you're doing, make a calculated decision or a calculated bet and try to let that play out. By the way, 4 probes killed early on to Lings is not normal. In fact, it's already up to 5.
Significant.
And, that's not even a sacrifice in any way for Zergs. To get that with Lings is basically to get that for free.
Man, that is very, very nice for Serral. Losing 5 probes right as your third is finishing when you're trying to get down there to mine it, and then he goes up with 6 Adepts here. How much damage is he actually going to get? It doesn't look like very much.
It seems like this might be backfired. I think only 2 Adepts get shaded away, and neither of them is going to be able to get back home. So,
and he lost an Oracle during that as well.
Yeah, I mean it's really bad now. I mean, the fact that he lost the workers early on and then the attack to try to make up for that has backfired. It means the herO is probably not going to have any presence on the map at all for the next minute or two here.
He's trying to get into blink and +1, but this is a game that's favoring Serral already. Serral's getting into a 4th and 5th base right now. We don't even have full 3-base saturation for herO as of yet. He's actually quite far behind on that, as you can see. This would be much better if he hadn't lost those 5 workers. But then to also lose all of his harassment units, he has no real pressure on the map right now.
Ooh, you could see the pain in his face when it happened. So, yeah, look, I mean, the game's not over, of course, but it's hard for the Protoss to figure out ways to create opportunities in moments like this. So it looks like what herO's going to try to do is just quietly extend his position down here. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was going to try to set up for a 4th base. He's actually just going to go for an attack.
Yeah, I think that this is right. Like, you're not going to win a macro game against Serral at this point. You have to get across the map and do damage. Maybe after you do some damage, you can do it, right? Like, well, that's a possibility.
He tears the rocks down. He does not manage to get that queen, and so these, oh man, these stalkers are going to get surrounded, and they're actually getting backed up. They can't move through each other, and so there's a lot of damage coming in over here. And, you know, just like in Game 1, Serral was prompted to do the all-in after losing some workers. It's the same story here, but this time from herO. He's trying to do a 3-base all-in, but the problem is he's already lost so many units. You can see that Serral's sitting on 5 bases, and so far, herO's really made no progress in stopping him from having any of those.
He's going to try now in the bottom left. It's an okay number of stalkers, but the amount of Zerglings being made at once, 30 to 40 lings at a time, that's going to be hard to deal with. We saw Serral with these overwhelming ling counts before, getting some surrounds and chasing everything back. We see in that split screen, the bottom right, wow, some great harassment over at herO's 3rd base. Dude, herO is on his last leg already here in game number 3.
I mean, herO is chopping him up into little pieces right now. This is going so badly here for herO. Not only is his push not doing damage fast enough, but the counterattacks have already killed so many workers, and now the sandwiching comes in. He's even set up a position so that when they blink away, he can do it once more. Serral is a god. I think this game is over, Artosis.
Yeah, you can see the look on his face. Absolutely everything going wrong for him this game. It's been a great series, but he's not going to be able to hold up against Serral here in game number 3. Really feels like Serral has found his stride. And yeah, I mean, that means that Serral's going to have an excellent record of 2-0 after this match.
That's right. I mean, this game is over, and I think we're really just seeing herO digest the loss. The lings, the road just keep coming in. GG, Serral takes it. And although it was a back and forth 1-1, game 3 was a stomping as Serral asserts his dominance.
Yeah, very, very well done there by Serral. It seemed for a moment there like he might be going down, but he got progressively better, it felt like, at defending all of the harassment, his own counter-harassment, doing a great job. And back to the drawing board for herO. It's too bad. After that game number 1, it was like, ooh, is this the GSL champion herO? But it wasn't meant to be.
And I love with these surrounds the fact that Serral knows exactly where the blink is going to come, and just make sure to ensure that. I mean, that was really what herO was able to do over and over and over to win his games, is he was always blinking back to safety, trading out over time. But Serral, with that killing blow, with that fatality move, catches the final blink and closes out the game. We're going to throw to an interview now and see how Serral is feeling. He has just defeated herO 2-1.
Serral, game 1. You want to just tell me what happened? You want me to ask a more specific question?
Well, I feel like all of the games had a little bit of a similar story. The early game wasn't the best. I was losing a bit too many drones. Yeah, obviously the first game, I think I lost like 5 drones the first 2 adepts, then the adept got like 3 or 4 more. I went for all in that I planned, but obviously my eco wasn't good enough. I had 2 little queens with the push, and it just wasn't meant to work. But I think I made it a nice game after that. I'm not sure if it was how bad it exactly was, because I did kill some probes, but I was behind for sure.
زي ما تشوفون سيرال معنا في السؤال الاول اعزائي المشاهدين تكلمنا عن الجيم الاول كيف هو خسر، وقال صراحه اكثر شيء يعني كان مسبب لي مشكله انه الدرونز حقاتي خسرتهم بشكل جدا كبير، حوالي خسرت 5 درونز بس في بدايه الجيم، والشيء هذا مره عاقني اني اقدر اني اكمل الجيم وافوز فيه، لكن في الايام اللي بعدها قدرت اني احافظ على الوضع وافوز في الجيم على طول.
Serral, I don't think I've ever seen you look bad in a game. I've just seen you more ahead or less ahead. But I do wonder, you addressed similar things happening throughout the 3 games. Did you have any changes to your approach that you mentally brought on after game 1?
Well, always mentally, I mean, nothing really, but at the same time, I just kind of tried my hardest to not do the same mistakes, repeat the same mistakes. But Yeah, there's not much you can do. Sometimes you just do the same mistakes all over again. It's just mainly like it's very hard. The double adept got me off guard. It's one of my stream specials to lose 2 adepts, but yeah, I didn't really change my attitude. Just try to do it better next game.
السؤال الثاني اللي سيرال سألناه بخصوص انه خسر الجيم الاول، هل غير شيء من الاستراتيجيات حقاته في الجيم الثاني والثالث بخصوص انه بما انه خسر الجيم الاول وهو يحاول يطبق اللي كان يحاول يسويه، لكن كان الجواب يقول لا صراحه انا ما غيرت شيء، ما في اشياء كثيره غيرت، بس حاولت قد ما اقدر اني ما اخطي نفس الخطا واكرره من جديد في الجيم الثاني والثالث، بس غير كذا انا كملت على نفس المستوى وقدرت اني افوز الجيم.
Looking ahead in this tournament, Serral, you are on a streak, you're looking good, and everyone names you as the player to beat. You think that's fair?
I mean, I like it. I would have, honestly, I'm not completely satisfied with how I played so far. I think I have to tune up my play a bit tomorrow, but yeah, just hope it goes well.
السؤال الاخير اللي سالنا سيرال، انه دائما احنا اذا سالنا اللاعبين الاخرين مين اللاعب اللي تحاول انك تهزمه وجاي البطوله عشان تهزمه، دائما يقولون سيرال، فهالشيء هذا هل هو بيغير عليك اي شيء؟ يقول صراحه انا احب الشيء هذا، وبالعكس اشوف اني ما اديت افضل اداء عندي وشوي يبيله ادائي تحسين، وهذا اللي بحاول اسويه الايام الجايه.
Well, if they're scared of you now, after a tune-up, it's going to be a fright fest. Let's send it over to the desk, take a look at your gadgets once again.
على طول نرجع لكم الاستوديو اعزائي المشاهدين، نتكلم عن اللي صار في المباراه وكيف سيرال قدر يحصل على فوزتين اليوم، ما بقول الا فوز واحده فقط ويطلع من السويس جروب ستيج.
Thank you very much over at the stage here. Yes, Serral survives and will go 2-0 here in the Swiss to be looking good. However, it was not clean cut by any stretch of the imagination. herO gave him a run for his money here in this series. Ben and Roddy joining me for this one. Roddy, this was, we were talking a lot about this backstage this series, and yeah, for Serral it wasn't easy.
Yeah, a whole lot to talk about. Obviously, in the end, the result is what matters.
Yeah.
I actually think if Serral would have played this exact same series at a different tournament that's a lot smaller, he'd be a whole lot harder on himself, and that's what makes Serral so great, right? He's his own worst critic, but he even said it, not completely satisfied with his play. I mean, in game 1, he lost 7 drones. As he said, that's way too much. I love that he said, this was my pre-planned build, because I was wondering, is he doing this because he lost so many drones, or was this the plan? It clearly was the plan, but he had not enough queens. Obviously, you cannot use transfuse on the other side of the map if you're attacking of hatchery tech, so the queens are a lot less scary than they would be of a lair tech attack, and it just wasn't meant to be. And Jonas said it as well. He's like, I'm not sure how far behind I was. Well, you were pretty far behind, Jonas.
Yes, you were. So game 1 was not looking too spicy, too hot for Serral, and then game 2 as well, when herO was playing things out the way he was, as we see this now finish up with herO taking the win. This, likewise, was kind of scary here for Serral, Ben.
It was really scary. Like, the Adepts both times in both games did quite some damage, and even though like one of the Oracles died early on, I still think herO was playing a really good game.
Yeah.
Until it was like, you know what, I'm going to make more Immortals. Then it's like, all right, we got to switch out of this soon, you know, because these Lings are the ones that are causing all the problems. And it was like he had no counter to them whatsoever. Even thinking like, he's got double Robo available, you can get Disruptors out, which, you know, against Lings it's not the best, but at least you can force the fights away from you. And then game 3 was an absolute disaster compared to the previous games. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong for herO in game 3.
Serral spoke about learning from mistakes, and that's absolutely what he did. I think in this game, he did have that clean early game. He was all over it. Sure, he maybe lost 8 drones, but in return, he killed 8 Adepts and 2 Oracles. That is the kind of defense we expect from Serral, and herO knew it as well. Game 3 was a bit of a disaster. I honestly think that's because herO too was kicking himself for those missed opportunities in game 2. Because Galar, I don't want to say he had it in the bag.
Sure.
Clearly it wasn't in the bag because he didn't win. But that game looked amazing for herO, and I just felt herO, mate, you've got 4 options here, my friend. Complement this army with a couple of Archons, that would go fantastic. You've got great upgrades.
Good AoE.
Couple High Templars for Storm, that would be fantastic. Couple of Colossus, that too would be fantastic. And even a Disruptor or 2 would be great. Whether the shots land or miss, you would force Serral to run away. And that's when the Stalkers and Immortals with those great upgrades shine the most. Like, I think herO just saw the finish line. He was so close, and he's like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna run over this finish line. And in the end, that is what costed him the game. But herO played absolutely fantastic in game 1 and for the first 12-14 minutes of game 2.
I've got to say, like, even though, you know, for the last few tournaments, it's been very bleak for Protoss players and just like just showing, and it's like, can this guy do it? He falls early. It's like, oh no, I guess they can't. We've actually had a lot of good Protoss showings today, and it's like, even though Serral didn't necessarily play as we know him to do, he still played good enough to win. But I think that's mainly because Creator and herO absolutely stepped their games up. And Classic as well, taking out Reina 2-0. And he played a really good style, much slower style, but it was really solid.
Yeah, I hear your frustrations as well though, Roddy, because Protoss has looked good, but they could look even better with just a little extra, you know?
Yeah, well, they have looked good. Don't forget that Classic is still going to play his second series, so we could have a Protoss that goes 2-0. Creator 1-on-1, I think he's all right with that. But yeah, herO will definitely be laying in bed tonight, and that's why I think he cracked that little smile as well at the end of game 2. He's like, oh,
Knew he I
kind of blew this one, didn't I? It's like he did all the hard work, and then he just couldn't quite close it out. But that also just goes to show Yona's greatness. Yona did a great job in making it up to Hive, surviving until Adrenal Glands +3. And then those links, they just hit different, baby. Like, they look the same, but they ain't the same anymore.
You know what? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Sorry. It's time for a break.
Series,
it was great.
Talk about. I'm sorry. It's all right. We're going to a break. When we return, we have another series, the penultimate series of the day, even I should say, as Clem is going to be going up against Solar. We'll see you